At the economy of the country, there's been a lot of concern around the unemployment numbers that continue to go up and up. I mean, you'd remember right now we're standing at 34.9% when it comes to the unemployment figures in South Africa. We're going to be having a conversation that really looks at what needs to be done, what bold action needs to be taken in order to ensure that South Africa really does come out of the woods. I mean, this economy keeps on contracting, time and again, and really it's not helping a lot of people. You would have seen even in one of the stories tonight where a lot of young people are talking about how difficult, the lockdowns have been on them, and they say that government really should not be looking at putting more of these stringent measures. And let's have then this particular conversation that looks at the South African economy and the impact that some of these travel bans that we've seen recently are likely to have on the economy. And I mean, the third quarter unemployment rate rose to 34.9%. This is up from 34.4% in the previous quarter. Now, the business community is really calling for urgent action here, and this is to address the economic situation in the country. Let's speak to one such leader, Monde Ndlovu, who's the head of advocacy and thought leadership at the Black Management Forum. Monde, good evening to you, and thank you so much for your time this evening. You write in one of your articles that reimagining the future of the economy is going to need bold and decisive leadership. Talk to us about how bold are you talking here?
To your listeners, Bongiwa, thank you very much. I hope I'm audible there.
You are audible.
Thank you very much. So the kind of boldness that we are talking about is to reimagine the system itself. As you would know, that the Black Management Forum has over the years championed transformation as a system on its own that ought to be ingrained in the system and not attach itself to the existing system of the country. So the whole economic system of the country needs to be re-looked at. We really need to have a clearer understanding of what drives the economy, what's going to drive the economy in the future, what kind of skills are necessary moving into the future, and looking at a variety of issues such as the different regions when we look at the capabilities of the country and looking at a skills audit. So we also know as well that there's a skills mismatch in the country. We also know that when you look at the skills levels in the country, you look at the degrees that we have in the country. I mean, less than 7% of the population have got degrees, less than 7% have got diplomas, less than 5% have got TVET college certificates. So already we can see there's a challenge of trying to drive the economy forward, but driving it forward from a skills development perspective. There's a serious challenge there. So you want to reindustrialize the economy on one side. On the other side, you're going to have a challenge of the very skills that you need. Unless you have high-end skill sets, which then place you in a vantage point on the higher end of the spectrum. So when we talk about bold thinking, we are being decisive about the kind of economic conversation which must take place around the skills that are needed, the skills that we don't need, and the kind of economy that ought to respond to the conditions of the country that is cemented, that is anchored on transformation. If it doesn't do that, we're going to get an economy that produces some GDP growth, that produces poverty, that produces inequality, that produces unemployment, which is what we've seen even pre-COVID. And COVID pandemic has accentuated these challenges and made them more glaring for us to see. So the boldness that we're talking about, we're going beyond social compact, by the way. And the issue of NEDLAC is trying to drive a social compact agenda, obviously mandated by the President of the Republic. But when you're discussing the issue of reconciliation, reconciling the country, developing the country, it goes beyond the social compact because the country must survive. So the economic system and its importance far exceeds a social compact direction. So what exactly are they discussing at NEDLAC?
So, Monde, you talk about a skills audit that doesn't look, though, to be an appetite when it comes to, putting this in place, especially when you're looking at the public sector. But I'm wondering then, for those that are young people, given the stats that you've just given to us when it comes to higher education, these skill set that are high end will have to be acquired from either an institution of higher learning. And as we speak, we're still fighting as a country for young people to be able to get into these particular institutions because of unaffordability. How then does government begin to balance this out and level the playing fields here?
Yeah, so firstly, in our conversations with the BBBE Commission around the BE elements themselves, in particular skills development, we discovered that private sector JC-listed companies have spent around 11 billion rands on skills development. Now the question is, what is the impact thereof of those skills, right? Where are they investing in particular? And are they tracking the measurement of those skills and their impact in the economy, right? So that's the one side of the issue in terms of access to high-end quality skills and assisting young people in making the right career choices, right? So there's that whole aspect of it. We'll come back to it now. And on the other side, with government coming into partner with the private sector in looking at how can we really zoom into the skills development aspect of BBBE in partnering with the private sector, with advocacy groups and lobby groups in identifying the specific skills that are needed to drive specific industries going into the future. So our conversations with the BBBE Commission around this particular matter led us to conclude that there is funds and resources available. In fact, there are companies that have an access of their budget in terms of skills development after their financial year. So they don't spend all of it, right? So we need to look at that. Why aren't they spending all of their money that is budgeted for on the one side? And on the other side, we need to look at how government can dovetail some of that. And on the other side, we need to track really which skills they're investing in and where those skills going. Now, the Department of Higher Education will then come in and tell you that even the students who come in and into the education system, they take a long time to complete their degrees because there are other challenges, which are financial, which is one of them. Others get excluded, others drop out for a variety of reasons, others in the wrong careers in the first place. If you take it even a step further back, if you look at what's happening at a primary school level, the country is struggling in terms of the STEM skill set in terms of math and science, and struggling to understand for meaning in terms of mathematics and science. And we know that maths and science open up the whole economy. You can become anything and everything if you understand with meaning maths and science. So we're having those challenges now coming to the system. We're still going to see in the long run how that impact of the lack of understanding numbers, right? So in the future, are you going to have business leaders who understand a balance sheet? And the answer is no, not quite. Are you going to have the engineers that you need in the future? And it's a questionable issue. So we really got to look at this issue at different levels. And the appetite has got to be there, which is the question you're asking. Is there appetite? We've got to create the appetite again to really look at this issue, because if we don't look at the issue, the unemployment is going to soar, the poverty is going to soar, the inequality will deepen. If you don't look at the issue of skills development, the resources behind it, the economic drivers that need to drive the economy behind that as well.
And Monde, one of the things that also, when you look at what has been happening, that needs urgent attention is the issue of energy supply, because it also does contribute to the unemployment crisis. Because think about it, if a business person does not have electricity and there's rolling blackouts, they then are losing customers, sometimes during that time. And then this means that they're losing revenue, and then they have to let people go. So a stable energy supply as well is going to be quite important in order to ensure that the economy in and itself recovers, but at the same time, jobs are being kept as well.
Yeah, that is correct. Of course, the energy crisis is another looming crisis, just like the water crisis as well, and also the local government sphere as well. So, and all of those meet at a local government perspective as well. And so the focus, again, around the stabilizing of electricity supply ought to come from a leadership perspective, right? So there needs to be clearer and more defined leadership on the issue of Eskom, which government is trying to address. And the BMF has expressed itself on an ongoing basis on the whole issue of energy supply, etc., and some of the opportunities being created around the energy mix, etc. But fundamentally, it is a leadership issue. And if the leadership is not as bold as we are driving it to become, then it's not just the electricity crisis we're going to have, it's going to be the water crisis. And we've seen businesses from local areas moving their businesses into other provinces because of a lack of local bulk services on the ground, which is another challenge as well. And the unemployed graduates, by the way, who are currently in the system, and if local government was thinking correctly around how do we beef up and redefine local government in terms of skills, you would bring in specific skills, young people to take over, to work for better service delivery.
Now, Monde, if I can come in there, pardon me, I'm sorry to come in there. We're almost out of time, but you talk about something very important, local government, and how important it is to then reimagine local government. Because think about the audit reports that we've been seeing, and the Auditor General even going as far as saying that some of the councillors are not able to read or interpret some of the financial statements. That's why they now have to put in place some of the, officials to come in, if I can put it that way, or consultants, in fact, if I was looking for that word. Now, if we are reimagining local government, as you say, it's going to also take a very resolute approach on who gets to be appointed into these positions.
Yeah, so you see now, when we're discussing local government, we come from a history where the political party in charge has liberated the country, so there's still that backlog, right, psychologically, right? And that's the first thing we need to admit. Secondly, we're in a phase now where we need to move from a governing party to a managing party and managing government, right? A management-driven local government, and the mindset and the attitude towards leadership and management needs to be informed by managerial principles, which ought to be taught, and you need to draw from skills of managerial skills that have been coming out of the economy. So when we reimagine local government, we really need to look at it outside of its political arena and look at it from a management arena perspective, so that service delivery becomes paramount, becomes top of mind, and not which political party has the power to flex, right? It ought to be about managing the processes, creating management structures and the right leaders, and bringing in the right skills, so that the economy from a local perspective, municipality perspective as well, the boards, etc., can be driven by management thinking and not political thinking.
Pardon me. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Thank you for that. Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but really interesting insights there that talk about a bold and holistic approach that is possibly needed in order to improve the economy. That was Monde Ndlovu, who's the head of advocacy and thought leadership at the Black Management Forum. And now Simon is standing by to talk about